Sure, it just says this. Go live. Audience, public. Yeah, I mean, it says that we're streaming, so it's so weird. Because before I was able to actually see myself.
Yeah, sometimes there's a bit of a delay. I know it's like that with Twitch. Like I hit go live, it takes like a minute to start going live.
All right, regardless, we'll just start.
All right, take it away.
Okay. Good evening, my fellow balloteers. Sorry
6
about that in the
p.m.
beginning. We were trying to figure out if how to get our Instagram lives to officially work and start to stream on our Instagram so that we can have you guys join on there instead of Twitch and the other avenues as well. But gonna get started covering four topics today. We're going to be looking into elections and voting rules, politics, polling, and the campaign landscape, foreign policy and geopolitics, and then lastly, we'll finish up with economy, markets, and domestic policy. So, starting first with the elections and voting, recently Trump has touted that he was going to sign a new executive order aimed at banning outright mail-in ballot voting, and as well as I believe voting machines. He wants to use just primarily paper ballots for voting, which is kind of insane to really
In
think about.
2025,
Yep,
this
and
old fart, dude.
yeah, and it's not even like, the claims of, voter fraud. As we said on the last podcast, they do stem from the Republicans' innocence when it comes
Yeah.
to actually legally tried cases and, legally won cases. When it comes to rumors and so forth, everyone pins that on the Democrats. When it comes to, real actual dockets of what is, fraudulent voting, it has tended to be Republicans.
Yeah,
So,
every accusation is a confession.
right. Yep. So yeah, the
Also,
voter That's it.
go
Voter
ahead.
ID laws are, they're primarily like cracking down on states that allow for mail-in ballots, and I think getting rid of it across the board is going to be more detrimental to him in a sense and Trump and his base comparable to Democrats, because I feel Democrats will be more they'll have the energy to actually get out there to vote and not just do a mail-in ballot, actually go to the polls and and vote and so forth. Like we saw that looking at the 2024 presidential election, voting methods, election day in-person voting was 39%, early in-person voting was 30%, mail-in ballots was only 29%.
And
So
this was COVID, right? 2020,
no, 24. So like
24.
24, like
Okay.
yeah, so like just seeing those numbers, and I think it was like almost 50% for 2020. So understanding that like there's a smaller subset of voters that use mail-in voting means that it's not going to cause a great ripple effect, I think. I mean, I think more people are going to be going out to vote, as I was just saying, actually go to the polls and so forth instead of sending in their ballot, whether it's early or going in. And sending it a few weeks before. But I think it's a bad move for him to really make, and
Absolutely.
it's even worse that this is stemming from all the things that he said during the 2020 presidential election when he lost, and then um, this previous presidential election as well. And there's only, when it comes to support, in a sense, for mail-in ballot voting, Democrats sit at 83%, which is, that's should be known by most people that Democrats do favor and do lean more towards mail-in ballots, but Republicans are sitting at 32% that support it, and those populations are definitely more of your elderly, seniorly populations that do support being able to use mail-in ballots instead of having to go to
The polls.
the polls, which may be not next to them in certain areas. I know, when I worked in Philadelphia, in the polling areas that they had weren't adequate in location for the seniors.
They do that a
So
lot.
yeah, and
They
it's
do that
not,
a
and
lot
it's
on
something
purpose.
that's yeah, it's all on purpose,
Yeah.
realistically, just to curtail them from wanting to go out, to vote.
I remember during 2016, during the Democratic primary, certain polling areas that were Bernie heavy areas got shut down. Be- just shut down. Then it was like now these people have to go further to cast their vote for Bernie and or their politician, but it was a major Bernie area, and other NYC areas that weren't massively Bernie didn't have their polling location shut down.
Yeah,
So it's a game they both do. It's every time politics is in America is very polarizing because both sides claim the other side's worse, the other side's bad. They both generally do the same thing they accuse the other of. And I think that this mail-in balloting example is just a big one. Like, oh, this is voter fraud because the Democrats vote largely by mail voting, for mail-in voting. And as you said, there's more cases that have come out that proven Republicans have been on the committing side of voter fraud more than Democrats have.
oh yeah, across the board.
And I remember seeing a few things about how like you could just send in a mail-in ballot multiple times; it counts as multiple votes. And I don't think people understand how the voting works. Actually, I'll say with confidence, I don't fully understand how the voting process works from A to C, A to B, how the
Yeah,
vote collection, then the distribution, how it counts. Different systems have different employees. Like Florida gets that stuff counted instantly. Compared to New York, for example, it takes days, even like a week after the presidential election, to get them counted.
yep,
So clearly, there's differences in how the election process is held between state to state, which is an important thing because the states are the ones that control their elections. That's a constitutionally required part of the USA.
yep.
The states run their elections. The Fed can't get involved. And so I think this big push by Trump to try to legalize mail-in voting across the board. I think at most, I think some red states might pick it up. Blue states aren't,
No, not at all.
And Trump isn't going to be able to get that national ban because he doesn't have the constitutional right to. He'd need to go through Congress. They will not have the majority in Congress to be able to get that vote passed. I believe it's 60%, at least 60 to 66% is needed for this kind of change.
Yeah, it's like a constitutional amendment. So that would be, I think it's 2/3 of state legislatures would have to vote on it.
Yeah, and that's just not going to happen. And I think that if red states do pick it up under pressure from Trump, it's going to just hurt the Republicans more because the blue states aren't going to do it 100%. You know what I mean? Even if Trump tries to order it with some of his faux executive order power,
Yeah.
they're just going to say, no, we're not going to listen to you. This is illegal.
hmm And then so now then imagine the flip side of it.
Yeah.
Like let's take this back to tie it to like a TV show, House of Cards. The season when they're doing all season 5, I believe, when they're doing the fake terrorism and the voting centers. So imagine on the flip side, a Democrat doing something of that nature to curtail in-person voting. Since
Yeah.
all Democrats do mail-in ballots voting, like what they like this is where it can get sticky
Murky.
and it's yeah, very murky because it's like you see what can happen on one flip side of the coin. But I always tell people, if you see a legislator using their powers in a certain way, it leaves the door for other legislators of the other party to re-engineer those mechanisms and use them for as they see fit.
Yeah.
And this whole crusade that he's been having on voting in the elections, it's all a string together pattern, starting with wanting to get illegal immigrants off the census, from redistricting to now I was getting ready to sneeze. Okay, I'm not. But now I think Louisiana has actually put in a petition to have the Supreme Court look at the Voting Rights Act, actually. So these are things that they're all tied together. And in my personal opinion, wanting to consolidate and more executively control state and federal elections for this upcoming um, midterm as well as presidential election. I think
Yeah.
he really wants to curtail and try to bring down as much Democratic numbers as possible. And realistically, he doesn't have to do anything. I mean, Democrat numbers and voting is down across the nation. I believe um, Democrats only picked up like 2 million across the whole entire country, where Republicans are sitting almost at like 5 million,
Yeah,
like
more than double.
registered. So way more than double. And even if you dive into the states, it's even more staggering as well, especially in New Jersey. Even though Democrats do outnumber Republicans, Republican voters are gaining a lot of ground when it comes to registering and signing individuals up for these upcoming elections and state elections. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all maps out. But realistically, this is what, in my opinion, he seems like he's trying to do. Solidify his executive powers when it comes to federal elections, and then get an expansion by that, depending on what the Supreme Court says if they do take up this challenge to the Voting Rights Act.
It'll be interesting to see. And I definitely agree and believe that this is all largely being pushed now because he's nervous about 2026.
Completely nervous.
And because we saw when he first was president, 2016, he did talk about election fraud a bit, but nothing crazy. Of course, he won. So what would he be arguing of? Oh, what kind of fraud is there if I won?
So
But
when he lost,
even when he won in 2016, I know so many Trump supporters who were talking about election fraud. I'm like, dude, if there was election fraud and your guy won, I'm not sure what you're trying to argue here. You know what I mean? And I will say, I do believe there's election fraud. There's election fraud on both sides, but I don't think it's major enough to adjust the entire federal national election.
no, I
And
don't think so either.
yeah, and we've seen it in smaller races, but when somebody wins or loses by hundreds of thousands of votes, it's fairly difficult to sway enough illegal votes in there because those votes aren't as as numerous as some people like to believe. They but I do think that this is just an interesting way. This is just like the democratic light, Trump republicanism. You know what I mean? This is very unconservative, very unconservative. And just like him taking control 10% of the stake of Intel, very unconservative. But Trump's not a conservative. He's basically a Bill Clinton Democrat, as we've
Yeah,
talked about before on here.
pretty
And
much.
like he really is. And no conservative would ever tout the idea of government control of companies. And no real conservative, I should say. There's a lot of fake ones. Rhinos, ever since I've been getting more into being the conservative, actual conservative ideology, the more I realize how many non-actual conservatives there are who just call themselves Republican. I mean, there's a big difference between being conservative and Republican. Like, I
Yeah,
don't consider myself Republican at all, but I 100% consider myself conservative. And that's
right.
just
Yep.
because, I think that when it comes to fiscal policies, the less the government spends, the better. And
Right.
simple way to put it, I mean, look at where we are now. Our government is absolutely selling out the future of the country for the rich and the rich seniors who control the country. And that's not conservatism at all.
Yeah. No.
It's state corporatism, like, hey, it's but the oligopoly, you hear that quite often nowadays. And I'd argue that it is a very good way to describe what's going on in the US at the moment. Because we've got people like, we see it with the tariffs. We've got companies like Tim Cook, NVIDIA CEO. These people can literally just pull up with their massive swaths of influence and money and say, hey, we've got, we see what's going on. We're here to do what we can to help out with the great MAGA movement, the great
Yeah.
President Trump. Like, here's a $1 million gold bar at President Trump. This is what we're trying to do with the U.S. economy.
Just ridiculous. Like
Just
it's
ridiculous.
blatant bribery
Yeah.
to certain extents, honestly.
And that's not conservatism at all. The thing is, like, the right and far right, just like the left to the far left, is a slippery slope. The far right's big on the company government control of companies, government control of the media. The far left is big on government control of companies, government control of media. You
Literally.
know what I mean? So it's the horseshoe theory. They use different reasoning, different philosophies for why this should be done. but they have the end same goal as greater government control of the country as a whole. And that's what Trump's trying to do. I don't know if I'd even it's a interesting thing, but I really think that once he's gone for good, that politicians are going to immediately start talking trash about him.
Yeah, they're gonna have to realign themselves to a newer conservative mantra, realistically,
Yeah.
because it's like when he's gone, what's left? You know, they've ran on having him as their prime individual. Anything that he says is golden to them. So it's kind of like if he's not there anymore, and there was a poll that was out that actually said that voters don't see that if something were to happen to JD Vance, they don't think that he could step in and be president on day one. I think the poll was. Let me see if I can find it here in the notes. I know I definitely have it here.
Oh yeah, if something happens to
Oh yeah,
Trump,
it's
he has to qualify for
45% no, 37% yes. So only 6 months, well, 8, 9 months now into the presidency, you already have individuals that are stating that they don't see Vance to be qualified to be president. So that should already tell you that 2028 is going to be a crap storm when it comes to who's going to be the nominee. Rubio, maybe.
I hope not. Oh
Like
my God.
there's a
Mindless
lot of different
coward.
ways that they can go to it, and let's just say why not Donald Trump Jr. throwing his hat in the ring,
I can
trying to
see
run
that.
on
I
his
can see
father's
him doing that.
coattails.
I can see him doing that. But the Trump Jr. isn't nearly as charismatic enough. I mean, Trump. The only reason why Trump's charismatic, in my opinion, is because he does one. He's occasionally funny. I'll admit that he is occasionally funny,
Oh
and
yeah,
two, he's very good at spewing lies about the other side. You know what I mean? And it's. I mean, we see it right now with the voting fraud is a very good example.
yeah,
But a big reason why Trump won wasn't because he had good policy, wasn't because he was proposing good ways to get America out of debt or help the American worker or the laborer. It's because he just talked about how bad Hillary Clinton was and the Democratic Party was. I
yeah,
know a lot of men who voted Trump who previously didn't vote Trump, or people who have voted Trump and continue to vote Trump solely for the fact they hated the left.
yep,
And that's what I mean. Like he really engineered the culture war in a sense, because after 2012, the Obama Romney election, politics were a bit boring. Honestly, in the grand scheme of how they are now, they it was just all a lot of it more was under the cover. And to be fair, that may be because Obama was part of the establishment, all the media was really on his side except for like Fox News. But Fox News wasn't going to run reports on the war crimes Obama's committing and why he should go against it. They
yeah,
were reporting on him wearing a tan suit and how he's such a bad American and how he's from Kenya. You
yeah.
know
That
what I
was
mean? I'm
it.
like, these people, there are legitimate criticisms that could have been provided, but they weren't. And the reason why is because the mainstream media, as we all know, is just in ties with the deep state, the powerful people, because the powerful elites that control the media are also directly donating to most of the politicians, so they control
Yeah,
them all. And why I bring this up to talk about Donald Trump is because Trump is the more he actually tries to do things for the country, the worse it gets. And I
oh,
think people are seeing that.
much worse,
Yeah,
much worse.
tariffs. The only thing he's like neutral on is his handling on illegal immigration, which I think as time goes on and the more lawsuits come out and the more people realize how many illegal people here were, detained or deported or XYZ, then I think it'll honestly get worse. But the big thing that Trump won on was the economy. And he is not doing good for the economy. They
Yeah, no,
and
not at all.
and JD Vance, the most likely next runner up, who we just mentioned that based off polling isn't perceived to be ready to be president. I think that I agree with that sentiment. He is one for me, a guy who is bought by Palantir. You know what I mean? The
Yeah,
controlled AI gonna get data on every single American in the country so they can give it to law enforcement in the federal government. He's clearly in ties with them.
yeah,
Peter
without a
Thiel is
doubt.
quite literally his mentor. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? A billionaire doesn't start investing millions into your campaign without a designated something in return. quid pro quo. You know what I mean? Not billionaires and gonna be like, oh, I think this guy's nice and gonna change the country for the better. I'm gonna give him millions of dollars and not ask him to do anything specific for me. That's not how it works.
Yeah, no, not at all.
And I think that I do think it'll be JD Vance, honestly. I don't think Marco Rubio's got the oomph for it. They because we're at a point where people do want to see more passion, and Marco Rubio is like a dry sponge in my opinion. You
Yeah,
know,
I can see that.
I'm not a registered Republican, of course, and so I don't. Maybe other people view him differently, and I'm sure they do. You know what I mean? It's just an opinion based. But seeing Rubio go from flip flop like most politicians do, but do it on such important topics
Yeah,
is the most annoying thing. Like the whole 2 week saga of the Obama causing Russiagate to get Trump out of not be able to be president. I mean, that was like the whole news cyclone for 2 weeks.
yeah.
Rubio was like saying like, oh yeah, I don't trust the investigation. Trump and Rubio both saying that. But then
They said that they trust the investigation in that
years before
audio.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
So it's just, I think that at least JD Vance has the privilege of not having his lies clearly caught on hot tape. You know what I mean?
I also feel like he needed someone that like has like zero to no political baggage in a sense, because he really doesn't. When you
He
look at him
doesn't.
compared to other politicians, there's always something that's in their back pocket that dilutes their voter, their electability, should I say?
Yeah.
I really don't think he has it. Besides, they might have to take the couches out of the White House.
I was about to
That's about
mention.
it. That's
I
about
was
it.
gonna say
But they
actually,
might have to take
like,
the couches out of the White House. That was about it. But there was also, funny enough, a you say Palantir and all that stuff, but someone found a picture of him back in college or high school. He actually had a, gosh, whose flag was it? I think it was Russia's flag, I think, or China's flag on his shirt, yellow and red. That's China, right? Or is that Russia?
yellow and red. What kind of
Stars.
yellow and red? Yellow and red stars. Oh shit.
Is that China? I think it was China's flag.
That sounds like a Chinese flag, but it might have been like a
Yes, it was Chinese. Yep, it was the
yeah.
circle. Yep, that's exactly what it was on his shirt when he was in like, I don't know, high school or college, depending on the picture. I don't know the time frame exactly, but someone was saying like it's been all along basically that he's had this like this technocratic mindset in a sense, and I know you were talking before about the monopolies and so forth, but there was actually some good news, I would say. Like the administration is actually now looking at Google and their streaming engine, and they're going to be investigating them and actually possibly looking at the beginning of breaking up Google itself. So I hope this can start that breakup of those big tech, companies down the line. And
Yeah.
this can also, like that, them breaking it up can also lead to, unfortunately, the government using their deals that they've made with Nvidia and Intel to make those other deals with um, the entities that they break up from Google. That's why honestly I could see it going there instead. Like, take it out of Google's camp, we'll put it in our camp as well as a security reasoning for it. And now Google will have to pay us or give us stake revenue to be able to get these industries back, or go or sell products in certain areas around the world and so forth, kind of like how they did with Nvidia's chip.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be coming up real soon.
That'll be
Honestly,
interesting to see.
I think it will be interesting. I mean, it just makes sense to, from what they've been doing, to that be the ultimate next step. Break up these monopolies, but then you convert them into, instead of private businesses, they are now owned by the government, or the government is now a majority stakeholder within that company and so forth.
The capitalistic way of doing things.
Yep, government enterprise. That's where we're getting to, and still want to move on to the next topic, but tying back into what we were talking about and how Donald Trump is really going after elections. JD Vance not being seen as a presidential candidate to succeed Trump or take over when if there's health ailments with Trump as well. So we did see. I think we did already report this, but the Iowa win that was huge.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to be starting seeing more of that, and you can already see that with the Virginia governor poll. Actually, the Democrat Spanberg is sitting at a 53% right now, plus 12, and Earl Sears, both female, I believe. She's sitting at 41%. So I do know Virginia had, gosh, what's his name? Governor Terry, gosh, McGulf or something like that. It's like MC, something like that. But he actually lost his race, if I'm not mistaken. Um, I think 2 years ago, or either in 2024 or in 2022. One of those two midterm election times is when he lost his governorship, actually.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see that they're going to be going, they're leaning back to Democrat. Hopefully that is a seat that Democrats can pick up. Looking at more on the House and Senate side of things, people are really thinking that the Democrats have a very strong chance to take back the Senate. Looking at PA 8th District Congressional seat, you have Cognetti sitting at 45%. I believe he is the Democrat running against the incumbent, uh, Buchanan. Yeah, Buchanan sitting at 43%. So you can see Democrats starting to encroach on whether it's an incumbent or whether it's their primary, their general election opponent that they're facing. They're gaining ground, and the sentiment that individuals are having towards the administration and what they're doing is really having the individuals, reconsider voting Republican in their state. So you're going to see this reverberate all throughout following elections, and even in 2026. We'll see what happens. And the PA 8th Congressional District as well. We'll see what happens in November with the New Jersey governor's race as well. Maggie Sherrill is ahead of Jack Chiarelli, but I always say nothing is won until the day after election day, when everything is said and done. So
Yeah.
we'll see. And I think this is a wake up call that Trump is now, well, not now realizing, he now knows he has to mobilize against something of this level, and him becoming possibly a
Yeah.
lame duck in his second, well, halfway through his second term, which realistically would, put handcuffs on him and not allow him to do a lot of, if they do the Senate, that's where a lot of the appointments come from for judges, state and federal wise. And then you have on the House, they take the House. That's where all the budgets start. So I actually would love for them to take the House, control, the power of the purse, have that majority there, and control, what that budget bill is going to be. Because if Democrats have, let's say 3-4 vote advantage over Republicans, it's game over at
Yeah.
this point for everything in the Trump's for his agenda going forward post 2026. He's not going to know what to do realistically. And that, if Democrats take the House, that empowers them even more to set up 4 good candidates, and just run them. Don't have 8, don't have 10. I understand everyone can get out there and throw their hat in the ring, but I think this needs to be a time where Democrats solidify around 2 to 3 people, don't have a boatload of choices, and then we just run with that. Let the best rise to the top, and then let the voters decide realistically. I think having 15 candidates on a stage debating doesn't allow for actual comprehensive policy
Debate.
and issues to be talked about. It's more so, I'm going to get a jab at you. Now I'm going to get my little 30 seconds that can get played on Twitter and so forth. And like, I personally, I've always hated that. I can't stand that. When I'm watching a debate, I don't get substance. I'm like, you're not my candidate then. So I really hope this is a turn that they can really, they can do, especially with, Trump's, god awful bending the knee to Israel and so forth, and somehow touting that Israel is out of American government somehow. I don't understand how he can make that. Did you see
That
that?
claim, I
That
did see
claim?
that.
I was like, are you serious? I was like, I guess someone from Israel or Mossad wanted you to say that to just, make your voters seem happy. But we're going to use that segue to go into our third section foreign policy, and we're covering some geopolitics as well. So they're looking at so actually today we'll start with what's going on today. So Israel started their ground invasion in Gaza. So God be with all those individuals and all the Palestinians that are in Gaza going through all these hard times. And now actually scholars have said this is a full-on genocide. It's
Yeah.
actually scholarly approved, which is ridiculous that it takes that for a label of that magnitude to get put on these level of egregious actions. Um, and then what's even worse about it is that yes, they are beginning their ground operation to move these individuals, but now the administration is shaping a post-war Gaza plan while taking steps like suspending many. They're suspending many of the Palestinians' visa approvals as well. I think almost like 600,000 of them, or 60,000, one of those two numbers. And it's kind of just like we're disapproving their visas. We're letting Israel go in to Palestine and push these people out. And in that new space, they're going to try to do. I believe it's
They're going to build like a tech
yes, it's
resort
going to build.
area.
Yeah, it's a tourist attraction area. So could you
Yeah.
imagine that?
I don't think the
Decades and
Israelis
decades and
understand how
decades, like,
much people are turning against them.
because that's just insane. You move these people from where they lived for almost their entire lives. You move them out, and Trump is just going to put a Trump Tower in Palestine. Like,
This is
what
the
is
thing.
going on?
This is the thing, and I think that this is unrelated to Gaza, but related to Israel, and I think it relates to their PR situation. Beverly Hills School District just voted to publicly display Israel flags on campuses as a sign of solidarity with Jews. Then they 3 days later voted against it because they cited massive amounts of hate coming in. And somebody who worked within the school district, or like a higher up administrator, said, I don't think you guys realize how much damage this move did to our district, nor do I think you guys realize how much people do not like Israel. And they're like, we wanted to do this to show solidarity with Jews in America, but at what point is it showing solidarity with Jews in America versus showing support to a foreign government? I'm like, dude, you voted for the foreign government's flag. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, you can't play stupid out of this. But point being is within 3 days, they were overturned because of so much hate that came in. One of the school admin members who voted for it said that within those 3 days, she received hundreds of extremely vulgar and anti-Semitic hate messages. And when the United States and public schools, public governments are saying, "Hey, let's fly this country's flag on our soil," how doesn't that express we are occupied as a country? You
Right.
know what I mean? How doesn't that, how why am I seeing the US flag, the California flag, and the Israel flag?
Could you
How,
imagine if
how
Obama
does
did
that
that?
connection make sense? So I think that what a lot of people on the pro Israel side don't realize is just how bad their actions are, how bad the actions they are committing is going for the public's belief in relations for Israel and for Jewish people as a whole. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
we've seen it right now where, I mean, anti-Semitism, according to the ADL, Jewish hatred has more than doubled in the globe in 5 years. 5 years. People went for more. They went from a quarter of the globe saying we don't like the Jewish people to now half the globe saying we don't like the Jewish people,
Right.
and that's solely because of Israel. And a lot of people try to argue against it, saying that, oh, people just don't like the Jews because of XYZ. No, people don't like Jewish supremacy. People don't like when they're not allowed to criticize a foreign government because they're being told that they hate Jews. No, I don't hate Jews. I hate my tax dollars going to fund genocide. I
Yeah.
don't hate Jews. I hate the fact that I have to be told that I'm a bad person because I believe my taxpayer money should be used on Americans, not on bombs. And speaking of what we were talking about earlier, races coming up. Graham Plattner, I believe that's his name. He's running for Senate in 2026 in Maine. seating to looking to de-seat Susan Collins,
Right.
somehow a Republican in a deep blue state. God knows how she's done it, probably just spewing lies left and right, but a Republican in Maine. And he said it very well, and he's been drawing massive crowds. He said this money that our taxpayer money should be going to hospitals in America, not to bomb hospitals in Gaza. And it just says it very well when, the American people are time and time again told, you just mentioned it as well with Trump and the Israel lobby. Trump said the Israel
Yeah.
lobby has been the most powerful lobby in American history. He said 20 years ago, if you even criticize Israel, you cannot get a job in politics. And we still see that massive control of
Massively.
Israel on American politics today. Which, yeah, why I can't believe he said, "Oh, the Israel lobby isn't that strong nowadays." Yes, they are.
It
Most
very much is.
Republicans, most Democrats are still vehemently pro-Israel, despite the fact their constituents are going in the opposite way.
Yeah, literally.
Especially the Democrats.
Yeah, and especially like with Democrats, like polls show that there is substantial opposition to sending more military aid to Israel among the general public, and of course across the board with Democrats. 60% oppose in general population and 32% support. So they're losing ground in the supportive nature of America. So there's, as we were saying in our last podcast, there's the next president is going to have to be, well, I'm sorry, the next Democratic nominee will have to be someone that has no allegiance to that or allegiance to the AIPAC, the APAC, basically.
Yeah.
No
Or J
allegiance to
Street or
that.
any of the Israel
Yeah, or
lobbies.
any of those lobbying firms would definitely make them a better shot to win, and get those disgruntled voters for how they feel about politicians' connections to Israel and what they do for Israel, as well as the funding and money they get from APAC as well.
Yeah. And the thing is, I've discussed with a few people who are pro-Israel about how the U.S. taxpayer. This is what blows my mind. So, of the federal tax money PA sends to the government, about 580 billion of it. Do I have that figure right? 580 million. Yeah, 580 million, not billion, of it goes to Israel. And I mentioned before that it will cost 15 million only to get every homeless veteran in Pennsylvania off the streets and housed. 15 of that 580. Now, I was like discussing with someone, I was like, isn't that a better use of our taxpayer dollars? And they brought up the fact that we make money, the government makes money off of Israeli bonds. And the thing is, Israeli bonds are now unrated because of how unsure that economy is right now. Yeah, and what unrated bonds means is just saying we can't guarantee you'll get your money back. We
Yep.
can't. We're not, so it's unrated. And it's just that I do generally believe that a very large part, I don't believe, I know, a very large part of the pro Israel support is just because many people hate Muslims. I won't even say hate Muslims. They don't view Muslims like they do everyone, normal people,
Yeah.
honestly. And the thing is, it's not even just Muslims, it's the Middle East. Like, I remember I'd see posts from like very prominent figures. I remember one of them was Joel Berry, a quote unquote proud Catholic who works for the Babylon Bee, who said that if you are a Christian in Gaza, you support Hamas, you deserve to die. These people just view Middle Easterners as less than human. If you're not their kind of person, the white Israeli or the white Christian, you may as well not even be a person. I mean, quite literally what they believe. And I remember it was like an account with 500,000 followers. I managed to rage bait them. And I was like, dude, you support Israel so well, despite the fact they've killed American soldiers with the USS Liberty. Just say the fact that you support them is because you hate Muslims. And the guy's next comment was, "You're right. I do hate Muslims." Like I said, this guy has nearly 500,000 followers.
Yeah.
He said, I said, be a man, say it with your chest, stop hiding like a coward, and say why you support Israel. Is because you hate Muslims. And the guy says, yeah, that's exactly why I think Muslims are a scourge on the planet. And I believe they deserve to be exterminated. And it's that's the common trope among pro-Israel people. They think that what Israel does is justified because the people on the other side, even if it's innocent children and women, even if they're Christians, are worse off because they're the other side. And it's very, very radical thinking.
Yeah, because I was
And
gonna say, even if you look historically, in a sense, like Christians have killed probably way more individuals than
Christians have
Muslims
killed the most
have
people
killed.
in the
Like just look
world. I
at
mean,
like crusades, pilgrimages to America during the founding of America, like Christopher Columbus, all that
the
nonsense. Like all that,
conquistadors
like
basically wiped out
con-
all of
exactly.
Latin America in the name of Christianity. They and the thing is, like, it happens. I'm not going to deny that it happened, and a lot of people like to deny that it happened. But yeah, Christianity has led to, of all the major religions, Christianity has led to the most death. But that's
And that's how
history.
we
You
got
know
the
what I mean?
Trail of Tears too.
Yeah,
Andrew Jackson, Manifest Destiny of moving of having that land and moving them out. Yeah, yep,
yeah.
yep,
And
yep.
the thing is, people suffer from a lot of modern bias because they say like, "Oh, well, that's in the past. Look at what's happening nowadays." Yeah, I agree. Islamic terrorism is a giant problem.
Same thing.
More Muslims get killed by Muslim terrorists than anybody else. That's why
Yeah,
I don't think people understand that. But I think they might know that, but I think they think, oh well, the Muslims are doing it to themselves. No, they're not.
right. Like yeah, I think that like it's way worse for Christians to be following Israel in the sense of really what they're
Oh
doing.
yeah,
They need a gut check and understand that
dude, the Jews don't
we're
even
not
believe in
like
Jesus Christ. You know what
right.
I
Like
mean?
the Bible does not bound you to have un unresolved or untried resolve for Israel, basically. Like lay down your life for Israel and lay down everything. Like, no, that is not the case. These legislators at the congressional level may make you think that, but no, it's not the case. It never was the case. The United States was always a strong country before Israel was a thing, and it will always be even after from whatever happens with Israel coming, Gaza and so forth could be a tourist attraction area, which is just disgusting to
Yeah.
think about that. That's what they want to do,
And the
and then
thing
mhm.
I'll say the thing is, for those who don't know the geography of Palestine, Israel cuts right between the Gaza Strip and West Bank. The West Bank's actually east of Gaza Strip. It's a much larger piece of land. Which, before I go on detail about Gaza, the West Bank has been illegally being attacked and invaded by Israeli settlers with the backing of the government, aka settlers stealing Christian and Muslim water, Christian and Muslim electricity, killing Christians and Muslims who they disagree with. It's bad. It's
And hasn't this
bad.
been happening since I know the settlers thing, the I'm sorry, Israel's Israelis moving the Palestinians from their encampments. That was happening all the way till Obama's era. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Obama
Yeah,
was
I
fine
think
with
oh
it. The
08. I think
Democrats
oh
were
08
fine with it.
area. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the
Because back
Republicans were.
then, Democrats were the ones that were, beholden on Israel, and now it's flipped.
The only democracy in the Middle East. The
Yep.
Muslim terrorists want to take away women's rights.
Now it
They
totally switched on its head.
Yeah, no, the parties are changing. You know what I mean? It's just independent media has played a big role in this. You know, Obama was an absolute benefactor of the mainstream media machine, just like Bush was. Those two both have
Without a doubt.
spelled so much death in the Middle East for Israel, and they had the mainstream media machine backing them up the whole time. And it's bothersome how much America is still involved in the Middle East. Like,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who believe that, and then they still support Israel, which blows my mind. I'm like, the more we support Israel, the longer we're going to be in the Middle East. They're the reason we are in the Middle East. The reason why we went to Iraq, the reason why we went to Afghanistan, was because of Israel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even high-ranking army figures who have left the military since, have said that after 9/11 happened, I'm blanking on the man's name, but he said that he went to the Pentagon after 9/11 attacks happened. He had clearance. He was active military. He was actively high ranked. He was in the Pentagon, and he asked about what's been found about the 9/11 investigation XYZ. And the person who he was reporting to at the time said that, well, due to 9/11, we are now going to be invading multiple Middle Eastern countries. And the guy was like, wait, what? Why are we invading multiple Middle Eastern countries? And then they were like,
Right.
well, it's because that's what the up top's saying. And the guy's like, well, why don't we just invade the one who did 9/11? Like, since we're saying that the Muslims did 9/11, why don't we invade bin Laden's home country or where bin Laden is being held? Bin Laden was being held in Pakistan, by the way, a country which we have good relations with. I just want to make that clear. It was never about terrorism. It was never about Al Qaeda. It was never about wanting to kill bin Laden. It was about wanting to help Israel control more of the Middle East by weakening their enemies.
Yeah, Greater Israel people.
Greater Israel is a real thing. And the thing is, man, I'm very critical of Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar here. Saudi Arabia has the power to change the Middle East. They do. They have the money, they have the military, they have the power. They ally with Iran. Israel is done.
Mm-hmm.
If the U.S. wants to go against Saudi Arabia too, that'd be a very interesting dynamic, considering that Saudi Arabia is our number one weapons partner. Saudi Arabia buys more weapons from the United States than any other country, even Israel, which is mind blowing. But it
No, that
just
really
goes to
is.
and they're a massive oil producer too, just like
Yeah.
Iran and many other Middle Eastern countries. If the Muslim countries came together and just said, hey, we're not dealing with this anymore, we want Israel gone, or not even we want Israel gone, but a more realistic situation would be, we're going to force the two-state solution, we're going to put in our military in the land. If Israel kills our people, we will retaliate, but
Yeah.
we're not going to stand by, see war crimes happen in our region. And they choose not to do that because it's against their interest. The UAE, for example, just signed a massive
Yeah.
weapons deal with Israel. So these Muslim countries that are run by oil money don't care about Muslim lives. They don't. And it's just like what we see here in America. These Christian leaders don't care about Christians. They don't. They care
Yeah.
about lining their pockets with money. They care about retaining power. They care about exploiting people, their voters, the people who don't know what's going on, and more to get the benefit of, well, this is what we're going to do. And it's going to be for this good reason, for liberty and democracy. But
Yeah.
really, it's to line my friends' fat pockets with more money by buying weapons and fueling the military-industrial complex and helping Israel kill more of its neighbors.
Right. And I think that like that lining their pocket is, just doesn't stay within that camp. It goes across the board. Like,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
wanting to, hit on what we have the rest here for this topic. Like, it's also tariffs as well, which are lining up individuals' pockets we've seen from reports that these tariffs have benefited uh, Trump's friends and rich friends, should I say. So it's interesting that now we have some more new tariff news and actually diplomatic rifts. I saw that Brazil has formally begun, reviewing reciprocatory measures in response to steep U.S. tariffs, to escalate the already, ongoing conflict, that ongoing trade conflict that we currently have with Brazil and other countries in the South America. And then you also see that earlier, well, in the after Trump's, well, during Trump's actually his presser today, he actually stated that the U.S. did a military strike in the southern Caribbean against a drug vessel that had departed Venezuela, and he actually put up the video on Twitter like it was um, what are those things from Call of Duty called? A Predator drone
A predator
recap.
drone. Yeah.
Basically, I
Kill cam.
kill cam, saw the ship in the water, and then boom. I was like, wow. I was like,
The thing
okay,
is, what makes me laugh the most about Trump is he dodges the military and then he tries to like claim all this hot stuff as being
right.
commander in chief.
Him and his bone spurs, but
Bone spurs, yeah. The rich
yeah,
money, what being rich can get you. It can get you out of the military. It can get you out of jail. It can get you being the president of the United States.
literally. And then
Yeah.
on top of Brazil, we have U.S. India trade and diplomatic rifts. Just gonna touch on this quickly. Trump administration imposed a steep 50% tariff on Indian goods in late August, escalating a trade dispute after India continued purchasing Russian oil. Um, goods hit Goods that will be hit include textiles, gyms, seafood, and furniture. Pharmaceuticals and semiconductors are going to be excluded. India, which makes sense. India's exports to the U.S. are 87 billion in 2020, but could fall nearly in half given these conflicts that are now emerging between Modi and Modi. How you say that?
I think Moody.
Moody. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
Moody too. I believe it's Prime Minister Moody is what they call the leader of India. I
Yeah,
think so. I think so.
I think so too.
But yeah, there's issues between those two. So, strategically, India is, pivoting, wanting new ties with Russia, China, and Brazil. That's that, BRICS coalition that we've been talking about. And, I've always said, I think if it does come to World War since, you'll have BRICS versus the United States and
The West
versus NATO in a whole
and
out
the Middle
war
East would take BRICS side,
with the
100%.
European, just being our cheerleaders and backing us up with what they can in that sense.
Yeah,
But but yeah, we know we're still gonna keep tracking, keep notes on all of these tariffs as they come, because we
and
know it's
I think it's
important.
also important to note that there is an active going court case
Yes,
regarding the
yeah,
tariffs.
yep. So yeah, there's an active court case. Trump in his presser today said that he will appeal it, stating that the since it's already woven into the economy, that taking it out would be detrimental, which I can see to an extent. I can
I
definitely,
disagree.
you don't think so?
I think repealing the tariffs would be good for the economy. I think people would. I think stocks would go up, but more importantly, I think values of goods would go down. Things would get cheaper. Like
Oh yeah, things definitely will get.
I
You
say
think it'd be a
oftenly on here.
crazy like sell off at that point once it happens?
I mean, I was reading reports that a lot of countries, like companies within other countries, are withholding a lot of product to ship to the United
Yeah,
States for the sole reason of they're waiting to see what happens with the tariffs. Because one, they're not stupid. You know what I mean? These are very wealthy companies that make a lot of money and have a lot of money riding on this. They know that if they can just ride out the tariffs, so say you're an Indian company who's affected by 50% tariffs, if you hear that the United States is having an internal debate with court cases involved about whether or not these tariffs are even legal or not, and I have, let's just say $100 million in goods ready to ship, it's either I take that 50% hit or pass that 50% on to the consumer or do a
yeah,
very level of it, or just hold it, sell what you have to various other markets that you have less tariff rates on. And then when that big market in America opens back up with no tariffs, just send it there. And I do think that two things: one, the tariffs would just make the general goods cheaper, but two, because companies have been stockpiling their goods because of the tariffs, I
yeah,
think once that massive amount of supply hits the market, that just supply and demand economics, the prices are going to go down. And I, I'm a free market guy. Like I said, I do. Yes, the government's going to make less money. I don't care about how much money the government makes. The government spends more than it makes, and it always will.
yeah,
And once the government goes 1 to 1 with earnings and spending, then I will care about how much money the government makes, because it's just fake money. Honestly, that's the
yeah.
thing about paper
Realistically,
money. That's the thing about paper money. It's not real. Anytime I say that, like I reference that Matthew McConaughey scene in on Wolf of Wall Street, where you're just talking about, like,
fugazi.
it really is. It really is.
Yeah,
I mean, the stock market's a fantastic example of it. Like, what is this? What is this? It's nothing more than irrational human psychology trying to make money. And that's where that Warren Buffett quote that I love comes up. The market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. They This is an asset based economy. If you hold cash, you're losing, and the main people that hold assets are the wealthy. The main people who hold cash are the workers. This is a system designed to suck out wealth from the middle and lower class and give
yeah,
it to the upper class. It's designed that way. Like, the only way most normal people have on the way out is like a 401k, or maybe they get fortunate and lucky and they, start making more money and can invest on their own, or they have like a business idea that does well, or it's difficult to do so. But when you already have hundreds of thousands of assets, and even in the 20s, you're set for the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, this is a great segue into our final section for today, looking at economy, markets, and domestic policy. I mean, I truly agree. I mean, I was reading a poll today. I forgot to include it, but it was um individuals are like spending way less, and as well don't even think that the American dream is a thing to even begin with. They think it's completely evaporated and
Yeah.
it's gone. And individuals were asking that question when I was in college. And back then I was like, I'm like 50-50, work hard enough, you're able to do it and so forth, this, that, and the third. But now that sentiment has completely changed. It's completely changed the way that the economy has changed, the way that AI is bubbling up, which is outpacing the .com bubble, as we've stated on here.
Insane to me.
Insane. So it's really it's a ticking time bomb, this economy that we have right now. And that speaks to why individuals feel that like they can't get ahead, or as well they can't achieve that American dream that their parents, grandparents were able to get, and that they learned about in school. Like I remember learning about that white picket fence, so forth, and now that's not how life has been. Median age for home ownership getting up to 40 years old,
Yeah.
38, 35 to 40, which is insane. And
And
mhm.
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Let's say he's also like with the housing, he's doing this executive order for the housing crisis emergency that's now reverberating throughout the country, and fears of a recession on top of government shutdown looming as well, which I totally forgot about. The government shutdown is coming up this fall.
When is it looming for? September, October?
I think it's October. Let me see.
I will say I do agree that more housing needs to be built. It's the biggest issue with the housing market is not enough houses are built. That's really it. And also, the old people don't want to sell their houses without making a massive amount of profit.
Right. But yeah,
I
next
don't
year.
understand the fixation with money, but I'm a more spiritual guy, which plays a very large part in that. And one saying that I like is that money is everything when you don't have it, and then it's nothing when you do have it. Because really, once you have enough to sustain yourself, money isn't going to make you more happy. It's
Right.
not. So these people who hoard this massive amount of wealth, or just want money more than anything, I just raise the question of, like, does this actually make you happy? But it raises me the bigger question of, what are you going to do with the money when you're dead? You know what I mean? And I understand a lot of them are going to give it in their wills to their children or, grandchildren or XYZ, which is good. Happy for you. They're giving it to the family.
Yeah.
But, studies show that within 3 generations, 80% of wealth is lost in families.
Which makes
So,
sense.
say you're a very well off, business owner, like you decide to give 100 million, 25 million each to four of your kids. You know what I mean? Odds are by the time that reaches their grandkids, that 100 million is going to be 20 million.
Right.
And it's just because for a few reasons, you know what I mean? A lot of people who do make it, they either had, it takes I don't want to say a rare breed, but it takes difficult circumstances to really make up the kind of person who can turn 100,000 into 100 million.
Hmm.
And if everyone can do it, everybody would be
Everyone
doing
would
it.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm not trying to knock off those people who have, really like gone far with it. And, congratulations to them. It's really ambitious to see. It was really inspiring to see some of these people who go from, not even from nothing, but, from being a normal Joe into like being like a defining part of the American economy.
Yep.
And, but I'm not even, aside from my complaints about the oligarchy, I really do think that this housing crisis that's going on, we do need more supply, and
Oh,
we
man.
do need more people who are willing to push that, and promote that agenda. So this is one of the few things I'll say I agree with Trump on.
Yeah, I think we definitely need more housing across the board, and um, even nationally and states. Finding plots of land you're able to build up, but not over encroach in neighborhoods. Like we don't want people jam packed on top of each other. We don't want to turn suburbs into cities
Yeah,
by building development upon development upon development. So, as this housing crisis develops and as more information comes out about it, we will be keeping tabs and being sure to report it as well. And then, just want to hit on some other House Republican proposed cuts. Oh, actually, sorry, I wanted to say that September 30th is the next deadline for the
the
CR.
30th.
Yeah, this for the
Ooh,
CR resolution. That's when it's So they passed it March 14th to fund it up till September 30th. So September 30th, 12 p.m., well, 12 a.m. is when they will need a new CR resolutions, which Johnson did say they would have 2 to 3. So this one may fund up until March, right? And they will have one from March till
September.
September, and they'll probably repeat that cycle for the next 4 years or until Democrats can, if they take the House, it's going to be completely different
Oh yeah, that'd be
ball game
interesting.
across the board.
That'd be interesting. I do hope Republican Democrats take the House. And with that said, this is more of a personal beef. I hope Janelle Stelson loses in PA District 10. I say that because we do not need more APAC Democrats. She's an
Yeah,
APAC
no.
Democrat. That's my home district, so I just wanted to say that if you are listening to this, do not vote against Janelle Stelson. Vote in Ricky Muhali, not even a real person, a fake person. You can even put an Elmo. Better than anything is better than her. Hell,
Yeah.
right now it's Scott Perry, who like supported the January 6th situation. I'd even take him over her. You know what I mean? Like at least I know what he's fighting for. But
Yeah.
with her, it's like, oh, we believe in democracy, but I also think we should murder children who disagree with us. Children
Right.
disagreeing with you. I remember this is just a 1 minute
Yeah,
rant.
go ahead.
So during the Biden administration, one of his higher ups was being interviewed regarding the Gaza situation. It was somebody who was directly involved with the Palestine ongoing genocide. And they were taught, and the reporter was asking him, so why did Joe Biden, allow this to go on as it did? And then the guy was just talking. He was like, well, it was a difficult situation. Joe tried to back them off from the situation as much as he could. But, they would say that, these people that were bombing, they're all supporters of Hamas. And then and he said that like the children that were being bombed were children of Hamas fighters.
Hmm.
So the reporter says, wait, are you justifying the bombing of children by saying they may have been the children of Hamas fighters? And the guy was like, well, that's what the policy was. And so it's just these people know exactly what's happening.
Policy has no
They
moral
don't
grounds.
care.
Nope.
They may act like they care. They do not. Democrats see this more than ever. That's why so many of the voters are so mad. Like you can't claim to be the party of empathy and love, which is what and minorities, which is what the Democrats try to push for. Like we got to care about your neighbor. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We're all in this together. XYZ democracy. You can't push that agenda and at the same time support genocide and the starvation and
No, it's
bombing of children.
contradictory to, when voters go to the ballot box when to vote for them. It conflicts them to think that, I have a representative who is willing or, doesn't lose a night of sleep by sending these votes over, as well as sending these weapons over to Israel and or sending our money over to Israel to use to, kill women, children, and innocents, basically, and using our resources to, you know, prop up and
Prop
continue,
that up.
yeah, prop up and continue to facilitate this level of genocide. Like even Trump's Israel messaging, winning the war but losing the world.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
absolutely
Absolutely. Like we mentioned earlier, double the world, the hatred for Jews in the world has doubled in 5 years.
and the sympathy has also doubled for Palestinians as well. Like I
Yeah,
think
and
him canceling those visas, it's like, dude, what are you doing?
right,
Like,
right. Oh, how is a Laura Loomer, a woman who is unable to legally own weapons due to mental health issues, how is she allowed to dictate State Department policy? You know what I mean? Like, oh, wait, she's Jewish. Huh.
makes
This
sense.
just makes everything look 10 times worse now. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like, it's just, even if they're not doing it purposely, what people see is they see, oh, well, we see these war crimes being committed and we see these people's lives being made far worse because of Israel control or Zionist control or Jewish supremacist control over America. And the funny thing is to me about so once the GOP stops supporting Israel, it's all over. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because the they're the last, stalwart wall. The older GOP are the last strong wall for Israel. That's why they went so hard in on Trump, Miriam Stelson, all the wealthy
Yeah.
Jewish supremacist donors. That's why they went so hard on Trump, was because they knew he'd let Israel do whatever was wanted. Now, I don't know if they realized what would happen, but under Biden and them, if you showed that you cared a bit, you may have swayed over a good amount of people. You know what I mean? Like, we're trying to work with Israel, XYZ. They're, confident that these are targets based off military reasoning, but we're not fully convinced of that. We're working with them to get them to stop this. We're focused on stopping terrorism in Palestine, so both the
Hmm.
Palestinians and the Israelis don't suffer from Hamas's terrorism. There's so much better messaging that could have been said to sway the American public.
Yeah.
Islamic terrorism has been the go-to excuse for everything regarding our Middle East policy in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
And that's not the reasoning they're giving. They're literally just saying, we don't care. That's what the Republicans are saying. The Democrats try to faux it. And, people were fine with it until they realized how bad it was. And they're like, no, I'm not. Even if you guys fake caring, I'm not supporting this
Yeah.
anymore.
Exactly.
Whereas Republicans are on the other side, where the Republicans really do believe they need to support Israel, for various reasons, whether it's due to Mossad blackmail, due to them being threatened with primaries by APAC and such like that. There's
Literally.
many reasons. But these people are willing to bend the knee to people ethnically cleansing, genociding actually would be the proper term now, genociding people just because they like the money in the position of power they have. And what we see among the young Republicans is that these people are so strongly against the Israel control of America. And so once the GOP stops supporting the Israel, which honestly I believe it'll happen, if Democrats win in 2028, I believe the next Republican candidate won't be pro-Israel.
No, I would
That's
say
what I
20. If 26 numbers are bad, they're gonna reevaluate.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if they do get smoked in 2026, I agree they will reevaluate. But absolutely, if they lose the presidency and more in 2028, it'll be like a wake up call, like the Democrats had a wake up call and they lost to Trump, because it'll be like, well, we're losing the young base of our support, like the Democrats were. How do we gain back this young base? The young base of Republicans are strong against on two things: illegal immigration and Israel.
Yeah.
Those are the two things that get them going the most. And Netanyahu himself has said, once we lose the Republicans, we lose America. And I do think that, as you said, they're losing the PR war. They've already
Yeah.
lost the world. You know what I mean? Like, if they don't wrap this up during Trump's presidency,
Game over.
no one is supporting in America any further military endeavors by them. No one.
Yeah, and I don't see like I wouldn't only like I could see Vance continuing it without a doubt, but I don't
Yeah.
think any other Republican would.
Palantir boy. He
No
want he wants
one.
to help his mentor make that money. Palantir works directly with Israel to ID Palestinians for killing. By the way, I'm sure
Yeah,
people know that.
yeah. So I don't. I think he'd be the only one that would actually go forward with it. I feel like uh, with sentiments changing now, they're only going to change even more in the next, 3 years.
Yeah,
So I think it's only going to get worse, and it will get worse for candidates who stand on, with Israel are not going to be electable.
I mean, this is a really, even among Democrats, this isn't even like oh, we're so pro-Palestine that if you support Israel at all, we won't vote for you. This is a moral test. We don't care if you're pro-Palestine or not.
No,
We care if you support the genocide of an innocent people. Like, you don't have to tell us that you believe Palestinians should control all of Palestine. You don't have to tell us that Palestine should be, Hamas is justified with its actions. You just have to say Israel is committing crimes against humanity and they do not have my support. That's very difficult for a lot of people to say right now in the political world
yeah, it's going
because
to
of
be
that money.
it's going to be a lot of soul checking,
Yeah,
basically.
I mean,
Like
this is
how
the
it's basically like how much are you willing to stand on your own morals, your own high ground, your own ethics, without aligning yourself with um, Israel.
yeah.
Basically, it's like how far can you get by standing on your own morals, support, ethics, getting you to where you need to be in Congress or at the state level without aligning yourself with Israeli special interests. It's gonna be interesting to see who rises. I think Newsom is going to be great, as we've been saying. Bashir,
If
um,
Newsom comes out against Israel, I'm voting for him, in my opinion.
yeah, I definitely would too. Yeah, I definitely would too, because it'd take It depends on what the
That's the
sentiment
big
is 4
thing,
years
man.
from now, realistically. I think that's really what I understand right now. It's, going down for Israel and so forth. But if it's consistent go down the next 3 years, I don't see any candidate wanting to be like, yes, I full heartedly and inexplicably support Israel and what they're doing. I don't think that that's going to be the case at all. You'll have individuals actually trying not to say those things, and you'll have individuals on stage calling each other out, of
Yeah.
course, like
Unless
across the
they're
board.
Richie Torres deep throating down that Israeli doggo.
Yeah, so we'll definitely see. I'll be interested to see who's going to be saying what on Israel. As we said, public opinion is diving down. Um, so yeah, that's going to be an ever evolving issue for this 2026 and 2028 elections, which is going to change a lot and will um, change a lot of people's sentiment towards their elected officials as 2026 and 2028 comes a lot closer.
Yeah.
And the last piece I just want to touch on before we wrap up, actually, just we haven't talked about Epstein in a while.
Because they
People
took
should
that
know.
month break.
People should, yeah, that's true. Oh God, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
So
that's why their strategy was let's wait a month. Everyone's going to stop talking about it. Well, the month's over, so let's start talking about it again.
and guess who's back up in front talking about it? Good
That
old
boy Massey.
Rep,
I should say
yep,
that man Massey. He's a man. He's like
Thomas
50 years
Massey
old. He's
and
not a boy.
Representative Ro Khan, which Ro Khan's pretty good. I like him. I would like him in like a cabinet position
Yeah.
in the
He
Democrats.
seems like a good. He seems like he's got morals.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Like he was working with I think freaking Ted Cruz on legislation. Like if
Yeah.
you can do that and work with someone of that
Someone
level,
as far gone as Ted Cruz.
yeah.
Oh my god. You know what I mean? I'd rather make a
Runaway
deal.
Ted, Cancun Cruz.
Cancun Cruz. We should support Israel because the Bible commands us to.
Yeah,
What
ridiculous.
verse, Ted? Where in the Bible does it say that, Ted? I can't tell you specifically where. I love that Tucker Carlson interview.
Same, but yes, on Wednesday tomorrow, Epstein victims will have a press conference with Representative Thomas Massey and Representative Ro Khan. So it'll be a cross ideological moment, honestly, for conservatives and Democrats to really see. And I hope there is a strong media presence there. Like I hope it's like actually covered by different media sources. We're definitely
Oh
going
my
to be.
God, Cleo, stop this.
Well,
You just
we definitely will be. You just take out
No, my cat's
camera.
moving my camera around. It got unplugged. Just keep talking. Keep
No, yeah,
talking.
you're fine. You're fine. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how much coverage this is going to get because I believe it's actually 10 victims of Jeffrey Epstein that's going to be speaking at this press conference. So we will be covering this on Thursday's episode. So yeah, I don't know what's going to be said. I mean, I think it's going to be very eye-opening and tear jerking, honestly, to what they say and what they
It's
speak
heartbreaking.
to. I know Maxwell has said, Trump's not in anything, Biden, I mean, Clinton's not in anything, but when someone's in a tight situation like that, they usually will say things that will set them up for the best success. So for her success, it's getting a pardon realistically.
Oh yeah.
So she's trying to, milk the cow and say, yeah, Trump wasn't in anything, he's perfectly fine. But the Democrats are, well, Republican as well. Thomas Massey, Republican, Ro Khan, Democrat, bringing together on this issue. They want to shed light on it because it's something that's important. It's also something that Republicans tried to run away from, which they shouldn't be able to run away from.
Especially after campaigning on it.
Because realistically, until she goes in front of a camera and gives testimony, there's really nothing that you can believe. And even that testimony itself is corrupted over the fact that, they've been meeting with her. Well, Trump's teams and attorneys have been meeting with her.
I wouldn't believe this woman if she gave a testimony under oath because
a few years ago,
why would she tell the truth? Why would she tell the truth?
Definitely. If she did it like the year he died and didn't speak to no Trump, no Biden, no nothing, just wanted to actually just do it, that's a different story. But now being in this light and, going from, oh, there is a list, there's not a list. And now she's like, well, if there's not a list, then why am I even here? So it's Trump's orchestrating. I wouldn't say he's orchestrating, but he's got a mastermind plan behind this and how it's been rolled out. In a sense,
probably Lutnick working with him.
Yes,
for those who don't know, Lutnick is rumored to be one of Trump's handlers But Lutnick lived right beside. No, he didn't live right beside. He bought Jeffrey Epstein's old house after Jeffrey Epstein moved out of it.
Yeah, what's his name?
Howard
Was
Lutnick.
Hoyer.
So he's the chair of the Department of Commerce. He is a very bad man, and he is helping Trump with, despite the fact that he's the Department of Commerce, he does a lot more than just that. You often see him talking like Fox News about how the tariffs are so good, how taking
Yeah,
10% ownership of Intel is such a good conservative idea. But he also plays a large part in a lot of this Epstein stuff.
yeah, he definitely does. And same with that the lawyer that gave Epstein his original deal before he died. Um, yeah, it's
Dershowitz,
all within. Yeah, Dershowitz. It's all within
what a
that.
name! What a
Yeah,
name!
yep. It's all within that Trump administration now, currently, which tells you. Yes, he may say that Israel is losing their grip on American politics, but we know very well, and we know that our listeners know from listening to this very engaging, balanced, and informative podcast that we're giving you guys the best information that we can on these issues that affect how you think on big electoral issues when you go to the ballot box, whether it's by mail or whether it's in person, from what Trump is pushing. So we definitely want to leave you all with our us wanting to have more of these conversations and letting you guys get different perspectives on balanced information, because that's what we're here for. So we definitely look forward to the press conference on Wednesday and reconvening on Thursday to talk about what's really going on and what is in that news cycle leading up on Wednesday to Thursday. So, as always, thank you again, my volunteers. You guys have a great night, and we will see you all Thursday.
God bless America. May peace be with you all. Have